Fun and engaging characters are among the hardest feats to do as a writer. Storytelling is one thing, but if you're able to create a character that the audience can encompass and enjoy, that is another task entirely. In this video, I want to discuss my own examples in the past 3 years, as I've noticed the way my characters evolved in my stories, as well as the stories that you've probably listened and experienced as well. When I think about my favorite characters in fiction, the one thing that I always think about is momentum. What are they going to change within the story, who they're going to be by the end, and what they're going to contribute to the overall conflict. We as storytellers have the great ability to not only come up with ideas about a character, a theme, or a central setting, but we're also able to evolve them with us. That is the reason why I value storytelling. And when I started working on my first book, the first thing I truly considered about a character or a story is the main one, the protagonist. The protagonist is the character that we follow throughout the whole story. They are me. They are you. And when we try to think about them less as protagonists and more as normal people, it becomes hard to think about why we're following them in the first place, which is the reason why to have a protagonist, we need an engaging goal to follow through with it. As a critic, my biggest complaint most times when I'm consuming media is that I don't find the protagonist interesting or a group of protagonists interesting. I want to use my favorite examples from a manga set here, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Steel Ball Run, where the two protagonists, Johnny and Gyro, are among my favorite characters, and the reason why is because they counter each other so well. Through this volume alone, we can immediately figure out their goals. Gyro is trying to win the Steel Ball Run to escape his own cultural problems, while Johnny is trying to fix himself and find meaning in his life through his legs. Even though that's a rough summation of what the story is about, it still is effective in trying to explain why I personally enjoy main characters. Protagonists aren't supposed to be a blank state, even though sometimes they can be. What they should be is a character that will evolve the most. They're the reason we follow the story. One of my own cases in my first book was one that I wanted to create a protagonist that was a failing comedian, one that was not funny and not witty, but ultimately becomes that way through trial and error. With that in mind, I changed his character to the perspective of a teenager at the time, and what I instead did, instead of trying to make him funny and witty, was make him more mellow and a bit more dramatic. That may seem like a stretch, especially for the time, but I believed it came out well because many of my friends felt empathy towards the main character. Even though it was written in first-person point of view, you could still tell how the character is going to evolve throughout each perspective. And the best way to do this is with the side characters. Side characters aren't just there for product placement or simple props. They are there to contribute to a story. They don't have to be either protagonist, antagonist, or a source of conflict, but what they should do is momentum. If we have a side character, let's use a romantic interest as an example, they are not the focus unless you're trying to tell a romantic story. But if you're not, which I believe you're not, you should make them more or less a plot point to an overall narrative. That doesn't mean you shouldn't give them a character arc. Your side character is there for a reason. Give them a similar goal to the protagonist, one that goes against it, or one that eventually lines up with shared goals as the story progresses. Let's say your characters are in space. You have your main protagonist trying to escape space and truly wants to get out of there, while your side character enjoys the space. But over time, though, as the story progresses, space becomes more terrifying, and that side character tries to help the main character in their goals. It's writes for itself. The more you're able to make a story be seamless, especially with the characters, the better. And when I talk about the characters, people think about if there should be a limit. I believe there should be a wide scope of characters. For instance, my third novel was an ensemble-centric cast that focused on many characters at once, about 15 within the first couple chapters. But over time, I slowly dwindled them down in the format of the story to focus primarily on 3 to 5. If you want to be able to tell the best and most cohesive story, keep your characters simple while turning them complex. It's one thing to turn the complex into simple, simple, but it's another thing to turn the simple into complex. And I think more of the latter rather than the former. From there, you can use your characters to evolve them in witty and smart ways. Use the setting as an example, develop their background, their traumas, and even general things they enjoy, but still make them engaging. If your characters can't laugh at a joke or can't cry when they watch something, they aren't characters, they're ideas. And while I've said in a previous video that writing characters are mostly just ideas, you should be able to contribute them as real and authentic as possible. Which leads us to another big character idea, the antagonist. These aren't the quote-unquote villain. They can be the villain, but the difference is a villain is someone who directly goes against the themes and the morals of the story, while an antagonist simply conflicts with the main character. It's an interesting dynamic, one that people get confused with, but if you can hear this explanation now, you can write antagonist better. Antagonists are used to create conflict. They are the biggest source of momentum because they are ever evolving. Let's go back to that space example, for instance. We have two characters who are trying their best to escape space. Yet there's either a force of nature, which is the antagonist, that goes against it, man versus nature, or there's a character, which I find a lot more interesting, trying to push towards that nature, man versus man. When we have an antagonist that directly goes against the protagonist, there's a reason we want the protagonist to win over the antagonist, and that reason should be based on relativity, most importantly relatability. How much does the audience care about the protagonist enough for them to want to see the antagonist lose? One of my favorite examples is from this anime called Death Note, where the antagonist is technically L, even though the villain is the main protagonist, Light. And when we watch their conflict come to head, there are parts of you at times you want to see Light win, despite the fact that he's the villain, because L is antagonizing his worldview. But as the story progresses, you can see it's a lot less black and white and more shades of gray that ultimately ends with a fantastic resolution to both of these characters. The biggest thing you should take away, especially when you think about protagonists, side characters, and antagonists, and all the different types of layers from durotagonists to tritagonists, is that they should evolve within the story. And the best thing you need to understand is a character arc. What is the motivation for your main character? If your main character is in space, once again, why are they in space? Why are they afraid of space? And then consider the antagonist. Why do they go against that said protagonist motivation? And then the side characters should either bounce off one of these two agendas or fit a completely different agenda that you could then add a different plot point to. All together, if your story can write itself, then it's better than the initial product, because when you build all of these ideas and more, the simple becomes complex. It's a beautiful web of complex, but always remember where the primary foundation comes. When you build a web so massive that it goes even beyond the main character and they just become a character in an ensemble, then there's no point to watching it. What you should do is have a focus, have an agenda, and have a goal, because your characters need goals. They should be able to finish a goal from start to finish, and whether they win or lose in that goal depends on how the story plays out. And as the writer, you have complete control over it. It doesn't matter who you are, but for the case of writing a book, consider all of this and more to tell the best and most engaging characters you possibly can. Thank you for watching today's video. Use this information wisely to continue inspiring others. I'm grateful for another new month, another new journey with me, and I'm excited to teach you all the unique and powerful things that you can be to be the best writer, novelist, and reader you possibly can. Check out my Instagram down the top link of the description if you want personal help to write your own novel and characters. Along with that, check out my own books down there as well to see exactly how I've written mine and give me constructive criticism on what I could do better. Until next time, I am Arnel Arcega. Keep on reading, keep on writing, and take care.